Welcome to CyberBytes, the podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Cooper, co-founder of Aspiron Search. Today we have a very special guest introducing Tom Kemp, who is a Silicon Valley-based author, entrepreneur, investor and policy advisor. Tom was the founder and CEO of Centrify, a leading cybersecurity cloud provider that amassed over 2,000 enterprise customers, including 60% of the Fortune 50, and achieved over 100 million annual revenue by the time he exited. This is not one to be missed. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. Are you in headquarters at the moment in Palo Alto? Where are you in the world?
Yeah, I'm based here in the Bay Area and just down the road from Stanford.
Oh, nice. Did you go to Stanford or?
No, I went to the University of Michigan. So I grew up in the Midwestern part of the U.S. And then right after college, I moved out here to California and been here ever since.
Wow, that's how it happens, right? Well, look, Tom, for those that don't know who you are, if you wouldn't mind just giving the audience an introduction of who you are and how you've got into the security industry.
Absolutely. So I'm a Silicon Valley-based entrepreneur, investor, and policy advisor. And most recently, I was the founder and CEO of Centrify Corporation. It's a $100 million plus cybersecurity company that had over 2,000 customers. We actually got acquired a couple of years ago. And we've been rolled in by a private equity firm with another company called Thycotic into an entity called Delinea. But I left before that roll-up merger occurred. But I'm also very active in doing angel investing, small seed investments in my own personal money, and I have a few cybersecurity investments also in privacy as well. So just like a lot of entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, we'd like to give back to other entrepreneurs and give little small amounts of money to get some of these companies kickstarted. And then finally, I've been doing a lot of work in technology policy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could be done from a law perspective as it relates to cybersecurity as well as privacy. So I volunteered in 2020 to be part of a campaign here in California for Prop 24, which was the California Privacy Rights Act. That's kind of California's equivalent, more or less, of the GDPR.
Yeah.
And then most recently, I worked on a bill in California that I proposed and I contributed to called the California Delete Act that just was signed by Governor Newsom. So basically, what I've been doing lately is I've taken this knowledge of cybersecurity and privacy and policy, and I came out with a book as well, just came out recently called Containing Big Tech. And I hope that delivers kind of a clear path forward for readers to look at the collection of our data, cybersecurity issues, privacy issues, et cetera.
Wow, loads. You're keeping busy then. Let's just say that.
Absolutely. No, it's look, I'm able to at a stage in my life and career that I'm able to dabble in different things, and but clearly always trying to focus on what's best for consumers and just trying to make the world more safe from a cybersecurity perspective, and then also give consumers enhanced privacy as well. So those are kind of the things that I like to focus on.
Yeah, nice. So with Centrify, obviously every founder's dream to get 100 mil ARR. I'm going to dive straight in. What was the secret sauce?
Well, the secret sauce was you got to have a must-have product. So that's the first and foremost thing, where you are considered by your customer to be a painkiller versus an aspirin. And a lot of people kind of fool themselves to think like, oh, this is a must-have product, when it really isn't. That even to the point where if they don't necessarily have budget for it, that they will try to at least carve out some little budget because it's such a big pain point as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you need a good team, right? And I know you're in the business of
Mm.
building teams, but oftentimes I see a lot of entrepreneurs, it's just one person, and they come to me and say, hey, I'm looking for a little money to kickstart my business. And I'm like, well, where's your team? You need to at least have one or two other co-founders that complement you and have great domain knowledge as well. Because if you get hit by a bus, the whole thing falls apart, right? And people do leave, and so you need to have two or three founders that act like a great basketball team. They're not all point guards, or they're not all forwards, or I can maybe use a soccer analogy. You just can't have five goalies. You need to have different people in the field right there, and so you need to have a great team there. And then finally, it needs to be a good market, big enough, but not too crowded as well. So there's kind of a timing aspect of it as well, because oftentimes I see entrepreneurs saying, oh yeah, we're going after this market, and our competition are these six people that have each raised $100 million, and we're trying to get our first $5 million. And that's going to be a tough road. Even though you have a better mousetrap, it's just going to be too difficult to compete in. And so you also need a situation in which you're timing it where the market's starting to take off, but there's only one or two other players in the market as well. So those are some of the dynamics that will allow you to hit that product market fit and then be able to sustain growth. And I think most companies stall out at a couple $1 million. And you need to be in a situation, as you said, to be able to scale it up to 100 million so you can have a sizable exit.
Nice. Yeah, some brilliant ingredients there to build a successful business. In terms of like preparing founders, particularly for those that are listening to this, like what are going to be some of the sucks or potential challenges, hurdles that they are going to come up against?
Well, I think it's the first and foremost, and you're in the people business. It's like you got to hire the right people, and you got to have a high hit ratio. You can't have a perfect 100% hit ratio but you need to make sure that you have a very high bar, and that people pass it, and then you feel comfortable. And because there's nothing worse than if you hire the wrong person, and then it'll take you 6 months to discover it, and then you go through the pain and suffering of doing that. So I think in the early stage, that the amount of vetting that you should do for the initial team should be incredibly high, right? And if you have a little angst or qualms about someone or some doubt, then I would go with that as well. And you just don't want to be in a situation that you just want to throw bodies, because at the early stage of a company, you have limited money, you have limited resources, and you need to show traction right out of the gates, right? And if you hire the wrong first salesperson, you hire the wrong marketing person, et cetera, then it can actually kill your company as well. So you could have the best mousetrap, but if you don't have that. So I think that's one aspect of it as well. The second aspect is that oftentimes the founders, especially the CEO, through force of personality and their contacts, can nail the first 5 to 10 lighthouse accounts, which is great, right? You need to actually have paying customers. But the founder, especially the CEO, needs to realize that you need to make this a scalable business, and you need to actually have a knowledge transfer. And so you need to actually hire people that can suck up your knowledge and replicate what you're doing. So you don't have to be on every sales call, because at the end of the day, you don't I'm going to use an analogy. It's like running like a Greek restaurant. You just can't be the owner of the restaurant in the back, cooking the food, being at the front, putting people in the tables and taking their order. That can scale if you only have 5 tables, right? And you can do everything. But in the end, most cybersecurity companies want to build a chain of Greek restaurants or French restaurants or whatever. I'm not picking on French or Greek or Spanish or burgers, right? You just a burger joint. But you want, in the end, your investors, your employees will want to go big time, and they'll want to have it be franchises. And so you need to at some point make sure that you do the transition so that other people can learn how to sell the product, so you don't actually have to do it all the time as well. And it's tough for sometimes founders and CEOs to let up because they think they can do it all. And this is not, you're trying to build a chain. You're not trying to build a boutique, high-end Greek, French, Spanish, Indian, restaurant.
Yeah, I think this ties quite nicely into you being an angel investor. So, how many cybersecurity, or generally, how many companies are you startups invested, and what sort of check sizes you writing out for these folks?
Yeah, so I kind of keep it around 15 or so. And the check sizes for me personally could be as small as 10, 25,000, and sometimes it goes up to say 100 or so
Yeah.
thousand out there. But I do it in conjunction with other people as well. And so I have a business partner, Adam, who was one of my co-founders at Centrify, and then we loop other people in. So we try to provide a consortium.
Nice.
And to be candid, the amount of money, these are small investments to kind of get people kick-started out there. I don't take a board position, and I'll be, if people want me to help, et cetera. So I really don't have that much influence, but I'm more than willing to act as a mentor
Mhm.
for these companies as well. And some of the CEOs and founders will want to have me, pick my brain and leverage me. Other people will be, hey, great, I just want to put your name and your logo on the website as an advisor, and then go off and do so it really depends on the actual CEO. So
Yeah.
it's just really, I think it's kind of equivalent, like if you had an Uncle Larry that wanted to start a coffee shop, he would come to you and say, hey Joseph, can you give me 10,000, $15,000, et cetera. So it's super early stage,
Yeah.
but that is critical. That's the critical part where you're actually trying to figure out, can you build that must-have product, right? And that's a really critical part of the early
Yeah.
stage.
How how do you evaluate, like, what is the investment thesis when you are, because it's so early, like what are you going on? Is it I
Well,
guess it is the team.
it's the team. It
Yeah.
absolutely. It's really the team, and it goes back to what I said before. If it's
Yeah.
one person, one person comes to me, a guy or gal comes to me and says, "Hey, I've got an idea, right? And can you give me some money?" And then I say, "Well, I can only give you a little money. You got to get a bunch of other people to give you some money to kickstart you." And then I say, well, but wait a minute, where are your co-founders? He says, well, I need the money to get the co-founders, right? Well, that means that you're probably not a good salesperson enough, because every founder needs to be, the founding team needs to be salespeople. Even if your domain knowledge is in engineering or marketing or sales, you've got to attract people. You got to be honey, and you got to have the bees come to you, right? Um, and so if you can't convince someone else to quit their job and join you in this grand vision, right, and be bought into it and have sweat equity in the business, then the odds are you're probably not going to go to the mat and be able to convince five customers to also sign up, right? So that is that it's so critical in the early stage that there's a team. And again, it's complementary football, it's complementary basketball. You just can't have everyone be a point guard or everyone be a soccer goalie, et cetera. You need to actually have a mix of people that have great domain knowledge. So in the end, yeah, there's most of the ideas that come to me, they haven't developed product. It's mostly like a PowerPoint. Like it's
If
literally
that.
it's slideware,
Yeah.
right? It's like, we think this is a great idea and all that stuff. And so I frankly prefer, like, if it's, especially if the people are known commodities, like if a friend says, oh, this guy is super smart, he's the expert, or I've worked with this person in the past, I know that they're highly competent, and that they've proven that it's not just me, it's three other people that are doing this and we're working full time. you know Sometimes you even have a situation like, well, I'm only doing this part time. I got my day job and then I'm dealing with my kids and I work on this from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, sorry, that's not going to kickstart it. You got to be all in.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. Can we plug a couple of your cybersecurity startups that you work
Yeah,
with? Surf Security
absolutely.
is one. Yeah.
Surf Security is one. It's they're based in Israel. They're a zero trust browser,
Mhm.
and so it's kind of like mobile device management, but doing it from a browser perspective. And so that gives you great deals of granularity to set policy. There's another one that's based in Europe. It's more of an AI risk management, so it's not
Okay.
necessarily cybersecurity. The company's called Holistic. They're based in
Yep.
London, and so they'll analyze algorithms and artificial intelligence and tell you if there's risk, not necessarily from a cybersecurity perspective, but if bias can be introduced in them. So that's a great example. Another cybersecurity company is in Europe called Astron. And so they're trying to do encryption of data and taking sensitive data, moving it up to the cloud. And then another great example is a company called Share ID. They're also
Yep.
based in France. They're really trying to do kind of next generation multi-factor authentication, identity verification without storing the personal data, up at the cloud. So it's highly secure as well. So those are four
Nice. Yeah,
examples. I
yeah.
picked European ones, because I know you're based
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Europe,
yeah.
but I obviously invest worldwide. So you got surf security, zero trust. You've got holistic AI, that's AI risk management and governance. You've got Astron, that does encryption and sensitive data management, and then you've got Share ID, that does next gen identity verification, multi-factor authentication, et cetera.
Yeah, nice. I'll put those companies in the show notes so people can check them out.
Yeah, great
Even
companies.
more interestingly, you're heavily involved within the data privacy and policy world. So, Prophecy 24, can we talk about that first? Because that was 2020 bill.
Yeah. So California in 2018, there was a gentleman by the name of Alistair McTaggart. He's actually a real estate guy, and he was having, I don't know, cocktails or dinner, and there was a person from Google at it, I think is at his house. And like the guy from Google kind of fessed up, like, you would just be shocked, Alistair, to know all the data that we have collected on you. And he began doing research on this, and he saw that Europe was coming out with GDPR, and there was nothing happening in the United States. And so he decided to, work with a team of people to write a privacy law that was, and they figured that the best way to get through it, because in California, it's the headquarters of all the tech companies, they would oppose it. And so they put a ballot initiative together called the California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA. And they got enough signatures to have kind of, again, like the GDPR equivalent for California at the state level. And then the tech industry lined up against it. And what happened is Cambridge Analytica happened in 2018, and they kind of went away. And then the legislature said, "Oh, this is going to we're going to look really stupid if such an important bill has to be voted on by the voters." So the legislature quickly voted on it. It passed. It was signed by Governor Brown in 2018, and that was the first state law for privacy. But then in 2019, the tech industry came back and tried to water it down through the legislature. And then Alistair said nuts to that. And so he came out with another proposition that he took directly to the ballot, Prop 24, which is the
Hmm.
California Privacy Rights Act, that amends the CCPA. And it actually sets the privacy law to be a floor versus a ceiling, which means that the legislature can't nuke or, water down privacy laws. And then the other interesting thing is it created a privacy agency, kind of like in the UK, the ICO, or the DPC in Ireland, a supervisory authority to look at these issues as well. So that passed actually in 2020. I was a full-time volunteer. I worked a lot on that campaign. And California in the US has the most rich and robust privacy law. And now 11 other states have followed California. Unfortunately, we still don't have a national privacy law like people in Europe have with GDPR.
What was the most recent? Is it the Delete Act that you've?
Yes. So,
That's-
so in California, you've got two ways to get laws on the books. So, in the case of Prop 24, it was a proposition, and then you have to gather enough signatures, and it's actually put on the ballot, right? And that kind of goes back to the progressive era in the U.S. There was a guy, Hiram Johnson, at the turn of the century in California that allowed direct democracy, that you could just vote on things, kind of like maybe Brexit, for
Mm.
example, right? And so every year we probably have 5 to 10 ballot initiatives, or every voting year we have 5 to 10 ballot initiatives, and that's how Prop 24. The other way, of course, is to go through the legislature, right? And so I actually have a state senator, Senator Becker, who I'm a constituent of, and I know him. And I said, hey, we have this big problem with these third parties collecting our data, called data brokers in the U.S. And they collect our data without our knowledge. They scrape it up, and then they sell it. And a lot of this data is very sensitive personal data. And then what happened in the US is that we had the overturn of Roe v. Wade. And so now we have a situation in the US in which certain states, what was legal before is now illegal. And based on your online activity, your searches, your geolocation, like if you visit a reproductive health care, is now illegal. And so, but you have this huge ecosystem of these data brokers buying and selling your data, and it's like virtually impossible to get your data deleted. So I had this idea to provide a means and mechanism for consumers to go to a website operated by this California Privacy Protection Agency, where they could go and then say, please, data brokers, delete my information. And so that was Senate Bill 362. So I proposed it to Senator Becker. I was very fortunate to work with a big team. I drafted a little bit of it, and I contributed, and I helped where needed. At the end of the day, it was Senator Becker's bill. He
Yeah.
deserves full credit, and Governor Newsom signed it, but it just was passed and signed by Governor Newsom like a week and a half ago or so as
Yeah.
we record this. So this is going to be kind of the first law of its type. It's kind of the equivalent of the FTC's do not call registry for telemarketers, that you can
Hmm.
get your name off the telemarketer list. I don't know if you have stuff similar like that
Yeah.
in the UK, but this is what we have. This is what we'll have in California in a couple of years.
Unbelievable. Out of curiosity, how big of a business was that data broker in?
It's a huge business. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not was, it
Yeah, yeah,
is.
it still is. Yeah, yeah.
It's a 200 billion plus industry with hundreds, if not thousands, et cetera. And look, this is it's all about like, say for example, you're a victim of identity fraud, right? And you want to get your data deleted from all these websites that have your information, as well as other people that have your sensitive information. Or say you're a victim of domestic violence, and your abuser, you don't want that abuser to track you down in your current address, right? And so really what you need to think about it is that it's basically impossible for a consumer to go. First of all, you don't even know who these people are. But the second thing is, then you have to say you get a list of 500, and California did have a data broker registry, and there was 527 registered. You would have to first start with aardvark, and then kind of work your way down the list. And it may take 30 minutes for each one, with follow up and all that stuff. So if you wanted to get your data deleted from data brokers, it may take you 30 times 527. That's the equivalent of 10 days to get your data deleted. And if you're a domestic violence
Yeah. Wow.
survivor, it's just terrible. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have that. And then the
Terrifying.
funny thing is that once you get your data deleted, they can just keep on collecting your data because it's a one-time deletion. So you have to rinse and repeat. And so really the best way to look at this is it's really about protecting consumers and giving them the right to be left alone. And actually privacy is in the California Constitution, right? It's an inalienable right. And so this is simply just a fulfillment of the ability to empower consumers to protect their data. And as we know, because I know you focus on cybersecurity, it's a huge issue. Too much data sloshing around about us makes it too easy for that data to be stolen.
Yeah. Wow. Let's plug the book. Can you tell us a little bit more about the book it's recently come out?
Absolutely. I happen to have a copy right here.
Perfect.
It's called Containing Big Tech. You can go to my website, tomkemp.ai, TOMKEMP.ai, or you can just go directly to the domain containingbigtech.com. That will actually put you over into the Amazon page. And so what I try to do is that I try to like I try to write a book that you could give it to your Uncle Larry or someone that's really smart that like, God, I know there's issues with privacy. I know like what's this AI thing, et cetera. Like what's TikTok? And so I try to like do it to more of a general audience, which is like, here are the issues that we face as a society with the over collection of our data, how the large tech firms use that data to facilitate advertising, behavioral advertising, how the collection of that data is actually increasingly being weaponized or used against us to like discriminate against us or to that people can buy this data or get access to this data. And then I talk about how this data is increasingly being fed into AI, right? And so, we always talk about, I mean, there's a lot of, artists and musicians are like, hey, I don't want AI to steal my painting or my song and then morph it. But what about us? Our copyright material is our face, our voice, our biometrics, we don't want to be, it would be super scary. Like I'm on a website and all of a sudden a virtual Tom Kemp pops up and says, you really need to buy more, aspirin, right? Like that would be like super freaky, right? But we should have our sensitive information should be copyrighted to us, and we shouldn't allow AI to do that. So I really talk a lot about how the large tech players are using AI, what are the benefits, but what are some of the risks and challenges? And then I talk about the fact that some of these entities are such huge monopolies that it actually exasperates some of the cybersecurity and privacy issues we have.
Yeah, wow. I'm really encourage people to get the book. If you was to highlight one particular area of it that you found like really insightful, what sort of teaser can you give the audience?
Yeah, I really think it's that a lot of the tech players, especially in the US as it relates to abortion related data, that they've actually made promises like, oh, we're not going to collect it, we're going to delete it, et cetera. And through my research, I was able to actually discover that what they said was not true, right? And the Guardian picked this up, some of my research up, and there was stuff published in the Washington Post. And so, what I'm trying to do is say that, like when people say, like, when something gets on the internet, it's forever, right?
Mm.
Same thing with your personal data. And so, I actually walk people through, like, this is still happening. Even though they say they'll delete it, they don't delete it. But then I try to give consumers actionable ways that they can reduce their data footprint. So I think the big takeaway is it's not all doom and gloom. I actually try to empower consumers to like reduce their data footprint to make themselves more secure, to enhance their privacy. I even talk about like, hey, you need to, as consumers, you need to turn on multi-factor authentication, right? To protect yourself as well. So I'm really trying to not lay out the issues, but I'm trying to provide solutions that consumers can do, but also what policymakers can do in potential laws.
Nice. What I think might be a good idea is if any of the audience reach out to me directly, I will personally get them a copy of the book. So that would be a promise from me. Any of the audience that reach out, I'll purchase the book for them. Um, Tom, how do you want to finish this up? Well, what's the future for you, man?
Well, to be determined. I mean, so the big things that I worked on for the last year was this bill in California and working on the book. I still work with entrepreneurs, and so and look, my goal is I want the world to be safer from hackers, right? And so there's different ways you can do that. And one way is that there's some companies that are building innovative products that I'm more in, if they got a great product, I'm more than happy to spend time, with these companies and give them some free advice. You get what you pay for. In some cases, I may say, hey, they need a little money to kickstart them. So just, I think I'm at a stage right now where I've seen firsthand, the bad things that could happen, with too much data out there, hackers getting it, et cetera. So I'm just trying to find different ways through entrepreneurism, through advice, through legislation, et cetera, just to protect people, because the reality is that more needs to be done in this area as well. And I'm really encouraged with the work that you're doing is supporting companies that are just focused more on the cybersecurity area. And so I think that's a worthwhile, like of all the sectors within software, et cetera, we need more security. And it's great to see the type of companies that you're supporting that are trying to build great platforms to make both consumers and businesses more secure. So to me, that's very noble.
Awesome. Tom, thank you very much for coming on the show, and I wish you all the best of success for what's next.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed today's show, please like and share with your friends and colleagues, as this is really important for the show's reach. If you'd like to be our next guest or are interested in Aspiron Search's staffing solutions, please get in touch directly with me or reach out to us via our website www.aspironsearch.com.